I promised a young shareholder in Zone 1 that he would get to ask the first question, and that we're ready for Zone 1.
Hello, Mr. Buffett and Mr. Munger. My name is David Klein-Rodick from Lincolnshire, Illinois. Thank you for letting me ask the first question. I wanted to say I am sorry for the loss of your friend, Mrs. Graham, last year. My question is, you have said that your favorite time to own a stock is forever, yet you sold McDonald's and Disney after not owning them for long. How do you decide when to hold forever and when to sell? And also, are you and Mr. Munger wearing Fruit of the Looms?
Charlie? I think I better answer the question. I can answer unequivocally, I'm wearing Fruit of the Loom. And I'm not sure whether Charlie wears underwear, do you?
I haven't bought any new underwear in a long time, and therefore I'm inappropriately attired.
He's waiting for a discount. Don't let him kid you. Well, the answer, it's a very good question about selling. I mean, it's not our natural inclination to sell. And on the other hand, and we have held the Washington Post stock since 1973. I've never sold a share of Berkshire, having bought the first shares in 1962. And we've held Coke stock since 1988. We've held Gillette stock since 1989. Held American Express stock since 1991. We had actually previously been an American Express in the 60s and Disney. So there are companies we're familiar with. We generally sell, well, we would sell if we needed money for something else, but that has not been the problem in the last 10 or 15 years. 40 years ago, my sales were all because I found something that I liked even better. I hated to sell what I sold, but I also didn't want to borrow money. So I would reluctantly sell something that I thought was terribly cheap to buy something that was even cheaper. Those were the times when I had more ideas than money. Now I've got more money than ideas, and that's a different equation. So now we sell really when we think that when we're reevaluating the economic characteristics of the business. In other words, if you take don't want to name names, but take a stock we've sold of some sort, we probably had one view of the long-term competitive advantage of the company at the time we bought it, and we may have modified that. That doesn't mean we think that the company is going into some disastrous period or anything remotely like that. We think McDonald's has a fine future. We think Disney has a fine future, and there are others. But we probably don't think that their competitive advantage is as strong as we might have thought, as we thought it was when we initially made the decision. That may mean that we were wrong when we made the decision originally. It may mean that we're wrong now, and that their strengths are every bit as what they were before. But for one reason or another, we think that the strengths may have been eroded to some degree. A classic case on that would be the newspaper industry generally, for example. I mean, in 1970, if Charlie and I were looking at the newspaper business, we felt it was about as impregnable a franchise as could be found. We still think it's quite a business, but we do not think the franchise in 2002 is the same as it was in 1970. We do not think the franchise of a network television station in 2002 is the same as it was in 1965. And those beliefs change quite gradually, and who knows whether they're precise, whether they're right even, but that is the reason in general that we sell now. If we got into some terribly cheap market, we might sell some things that we thought were cheap to buy something even cheaper after we bought lots and lots of equities, but that's not the occasion right now. Charlie?
Nothing to add.
He's been practicing for weeks.
I'm Lowell Chrisman from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm retired and teaching in seniors in high school. I wish they could be here to hear you today. I'm teaching these people an investment course part-time. And the first class I went to, they asked me to teach them how to prepare for retirement. I would like to know what the 2 or 3 things are that you would suggest that I include in this course.
What the hell does Warren know about retirement?
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't even thought about it. Now, let me give you one suggestion for that group. I use this sometimes when I talk to a bunch of high school seniors down in Nebraska, Westland, a few weeks ago. But tell the youngsters in the class, they're probably around 16 or 17. And if they're like I was when I was 16, I was only thinking of 2 things, and Martin's Aunt Barbara wasn't going out with me, so I was down to cars. I tried hearses, but that didn't work. And let's assume, and I use this let's assume a genie appeared to you when you turned 16, and the genie said, you get any car you want tomorrow morning tied up in a big pink ribbon, anything you name, and it can be a Rolls Royce, it can be a Jaguar, it can be a Lexus, you name it, and that car will be there, and you don't owe me a penny. And having heard the genie stories before, you say to the genie, what's the catch? And of course the genie says, well, there's just one. That car, which you're going to get tomorrow morning, car of your dreams, is the only car you're ever going to get. So you can pick one, but that's it. And you still name whatever the car of your dreams is, and the next morning you receive that car. Now, what do you do knowing that's the only car you're going to have for the rest of your life? Well, you read the owner's manual about 10 times before you put the key in the ignition. You keep it garaged. You change the oil twice as often as they tell you to do. You keep the tires inflated properly. If you get a little nick, you fix it that day so it doesn't rust on you. In other words, you make sure that this car of your dreams at age 16 is going to still be the car of your dreams at age 50 or 60 because you treat it as the only one you'll ever get in your lifetime. And then I would suggest to your students in Phoenix that they are going to get exactly one mind and one body. And that's the mind and body they're going to have at age 40 and 50 and 60. And it isn't so much a question of preparing for retirement precisely at those ages. It's a question of preparing for life at those ages, and that they should treat the importance of taking care and maximizing that mind and taking care of that body in a way that when they get to be 50 or 60 or 70, they've got a real asset instead of something that's rusted and been ignored over the years. And it will be too late to think about that when they're 60 or 70. You can't repair the car back into the shape it was. You can maintain it. And in the case of a mind, you can enhance it in a very big way over time. But the most important asset your students have is themselves. I will take a person graduating from college, and assuming they're in normal shape and everything, I will be glad to pay them, probably $50,000 for 10% of all their earnings for the rest of their lives. Well, if I'm willing to pay them 10% for $50,000 for 10%, that means they're worth $500,000 if they haven't got a dime in their pocket, as long as they've got a good mind and a good body. Now, that asset is far, far more important than any other asset they've got, unless they've been very lucky in terms of inheritance or something. But overwhelmingly, their main asset is themselves, and they ought to treat their main asset as they would any other asset that was divorced from themselves. And if they do that and they start thinking about it now, and they develop the habits that maintain and enhance the asset, they will have a very good car, mind, and body when they get to be 60. And if they don't, they'll have a wreck. Charlie? Do we have somebody at zone 9?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Buffett, my name is Luke Nosek from Palo Alto in California. The first thing I'd like is just to thank you for saving my shirt from the internet stocks for the last few years. And actually, it's not quite true. I lost my shirt, but you did save my underpants. I bought the stock in late 2000. And it's actually not just been about the stock. It's been about learning from you and your investment philosophy and your character. It's very inspiring in the beginning of my professional life to have a mentor like that. And I would love to. I think it's been very inspiring for all of us. I guess it's been almost 50 years of your investment professional life that's been continuing to go over the top. I'd love for that to continue for a long time. I'd love to see the next 50 years. And I don't know if that's possible given current medical technology, but I have some friends in biotech who have been involved in companies that do something called cryonic suspension. And I'm curious if you've heard of it. It's the process of, or looked into it, it's the process of freezing people as they're dying. And
just don't do it too early with me.
it's actually legally after they pass away. But even if the chances of it working are very small and the discount rate is huge over a long period of time, I'd wonder if you looked into it, if you would consider or think about that possibility. And again, thank you for your service and all the lessons for the last 50 years. And we'll think about
Well, I appreciate the suggestion, and there probably isn't much downside to it.
It takes a lot of electricity to keep you frozen through all eternity.
Well, that's okay. We get our electricity wholesale at Mid-American. Now, we are for anything that extends our productive year. I must say, at 71, I can't recall ever having any more fun than I'm having now, and I think Charlie seems to be in pretty good spirits too. So we are lucky to be in the business we're in. I mean, just imagine, if we'd been halfway athletic or anything like that, where you essentially you're limited by age, but there's really there are no problems in this business. I mean, as long as I can kind of lift the phone up and hear Craig on the other end, or if I can't hear him, I get him to tell to Charlie and he can relay it on to me. It's a very easy business to conduct throughout your life, and we're fortunate that way.